Hey everyone, welcome to another A Day in the Life. Today we have a day in the life of a founder. With me, I have Claire, I have Manuel, I have Rish, and they will introduce themselves, talk about a bit more the companies they are working and they founded, and then we will understand a bit better how does their life look like. So let's start with you, Claire. So what do you do? What does your company do?
Cool, awesome. So Mafalda, thanks very much for having me on. And yeah, it's really cool to join Manuel and Rish on the podcast. Yeah, as you said, my name's Claire, and I am the co-founder of a company called Houston and Co. And essentially, what we are is a premium freelance platform that allows organizations to find and kind of onboard top quality freelance talent, basically in the fraction of the time that it would take to hire an individual.
Awesome. Sounds really, really cool and definitely very relevant. Manuel, we met in Dublin, but we've done stuff together. But once again, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do at Sales Playbook.
Yeah, happy to have founded and basically bootstrapped Sales Playbook to seven-figure annual revenue, then took on small seed funding by actually more to build like a sales VC, and now helping 220 plus B2B SaaS startups to build and scale sales quickly by hitting message market fit, building outbound sales, setting up scalable structures, closing deals faster, and building world-class sales teams. So that's the 5 challenges we focus on. That's what we do. Before, build up sales for an AI startup, large scale sales for transformation, helping to sell lost Tesla Roadsters a bit a decade ago.
Perfect. Yeah. Absolutely. That's great. Rish, how about you at Content Beta?
Pretty good. So I live in India. I run a company called Content Beta. We are a productized creative services. So we help software companies create product marketing content, mainly design and video, in a more scalable way.
Perfect. I think it's funny because I didn't do that on purpose, but it sounds like the three of your businesses they kind of work together very nicely. It was not on purpose, so that was completely a coincidence, by the way. Great. So let's start to speak about the founder's life, because we all know it's not an easy life. I heard that from a lot of people who are founders, but let's try to understand first in general, what does a founder's life look like? So we can start with you, Claire, again. How does your day look like, and what's usually on your mind as a founder?
Yeah, so actually this is a super cool question to think about, because probably something that founders can empathize with is that time for strategizing is typically small and time for execution is big. Of course, it shouldn't be that way. But I was kind of thinking through ahead of this conversation what the role of a founder is. And some people will say, it's everything. It's a CTO, it's a CFO, it's a CRO, right? Some of the roles that you've already covered. And I guess one of the things I kind of asked was, as a bit of a litmus test, what are any of these roles could I see hiring somebody for in the future of my company? And the only role that I came across that I couldn't answer that question was the person that kind of ultimately decides who you want to be as a business, what direction you want to go in, right? Whether you want to add good to the world or bad to the world, whether you want to be focused on, building something enormous or keeping something small and boutique, whether you want to be caring or uncaring to your employees or staff. I would say that's really what the kind of, for me, if I distill down what the role of a founder is really the kind of one at the helm that ultimately has to decide what is it that I want to make this business into. And yeah, in terms of what that entails, on the daily, I would say it's blocks of work. For me, I would say like the kind of key blocks that make up my day, ideally. Of course, there's always some firefighting in there, but it's kind of time that we all know, right? No matter what job.
I'm not the founder, and I'm a firefighter myself, so I imagine you as a founder. Yes,
for sure. But those blocks are kind of time spent with clients. I think it's super important as a founder to really hold on to time spent with your team. time spent by yourself as well, doing some focused work, is something that's kind of more difficult to carve out a bit. And also time spent in the things that you're interested in that don't grow your business, but basically keep you sane as a human. So I would say to different extents, those are the kind of key blocks that typically make up my day as a founder anyway.
Manuel, how different or how equal is it for you?
Yeah, I think I love to say like, hey, I work like 40 hours a week. Every day looks the same. It's very bashed and like a very predictable structure. I think like, it changes tremendously. Like I started like by myself, like single founder solopreneur is the glorified name for like doing everything, right? Like equally bad or equally good, to about 25K, 30K monthly revenue, which is decent lifestyle business, and then scaling it up to like 6-figure monthly revenue. It changes quite a bit. And like I think like the 40 hours actually became kind of true because I take Wednesdays, like I do Mateo, like I spend time with my son, and then Mondays largely focus internally, like 80% internal meetings, strategizing and so on. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, basically split between probably a third really like selling like to high value customers, like my top 20 list and strategic partners. A third is about building the business, like blueprints, like and so on. And the third should be about like leading the team, enabling the team. And I think that's definitely a change from 6 to 7-figure business towards like more investing more time to become from founder to CEO. Let's put it that way. Like
absolutely.
A sales rep is not by nature a VP sales. A software engineer is not by nature a scrum master, and a founder is not by the nature of it a CEO. And I think it's just like this very weird concept why it should be.
I can see Rish and Claire nodding and smiling. So I assume, Rish, you were agreeing with Manuel. How is it for you?
I think I could relate pretty much what Manuel said. So it's very different when you start. I mean, when you start, you basically hustle. And now I've grown into a people manager. So I don't call myself a CEO or a founder. I call myself people manager because now that I've figured out what's the right fit, I mean, now I got to figure out how do you want to grow? Which people do I get in charge of that growth plan? And how do we make sure that we continue growing in that same direction? So I guess, so 1/3 of my time I spend, probably half of the time I spend managing my team or probably hiring new people, and probably some part in strategizing and firefighting.
Yeah.
If I may add one thing to that, just
of course.
When I looked you up before the session, Rishabh, like I mean, we've been using Penji for quite a while. Sorry for that. One of your key competitors, and I wrote to the founder of Penji like, hey, you seem to have it all figured out. It's so smooth workflows, everything works good. Yeah, mate, that's like after founding a creative agency for 8 years and like struggling like for 4 years, and it's still like just keep grinding, stay on the bus. Don't worry, like it's going to be painful every day, and we're figuring things out as we go. So
fake it until you make it, right?
It's not even a fake it. It's just becoming aware of like speaking to these hugely successful people and like, hey, you seem to have it all figured out, and you've been doing this for like 15 years. Does it ever get easier? And it's like, no. It's like, oh, shit.
So that gives us all a lot of hope, doesn't it? Speaking about that, I'm super happy you brought that up. Claire, what are the main challenges, would you say, in general, of a founder's role?
I think probably for like one of the biggest transitions as well, I see from an employee to a founder is that that role description is not so tight, right? You even see it in the conversation, the three of us, roughly the same, but kind of have a different idea. If you ask the job description, from the three of us, probably you get something quite different. And one of the things that for sure is I find the most challenging as a founder is that there are so many things that I could work on, that I want to work on, that other people want me to work on. And that's a really big, long list. And there's a very, very short list of things that I can do with my time that are impactful for the business. And the challenge is finding those things and then kind of being a little bit ruthless about working on just those things and not being kind of pulled in. If you've got kind of 10 top priorities, try to work on 1 and 2, but whatever you do, don't work on 3 to 10, because 3 to 10 are sexy, they're interesting, you want to do them, but that's exactly the stuff that So it's not important to kind of make your top 1 and 2. So I think maybe also founders kind of are, they're doers, they're interested in doing lots of things. And I heard lots of founders say that their kind of key challenge as well is not something that comes naturally to them, but it's really focusing on just the things that make the impact to your business in order to spend your time really kind of well.
Yeah. The FOMO, right? Like the FOMO is real.
FOMO's real, so real.
Rish, is the FOMO real for you as well? What other challenges do you have?
I think the biggest transition from an employer to a founder, I mean, I've been an employee 8 years ago, but there you got like tight deadlines or goals or KPIs. And as a founder, everything is so fragile, right? I mean, because there is no boss, right? I mean, probably if you have an investor, probably you could be reporting to a board or something. But as a small business, I think it's difficult to difficult to be accountable to something, right? I mean, so I have a co-founder, and what we've done internally that, hey, let's report to each other and let's brief each other what goals we are and how are we going to achieve that. So that's one thing what we are trying to do. I think biggest challenge for me is finding the right person, because not everybody is the best fit for the organization. It's not that the person is good or bad, but sometimes they're not good fit for the role or for the company or for the culture. So I think that's I think the number 2 challenge which I have, getting the right person. And third thing probably is how big can you dream, right? I mean, as a founder, I used to feel that I'm like failing every day, especially in the early days. I felt like, hey, I'm losing today, and you got to keep up the hope, keep up the patience that, hey, it will work out. I mean, keep doing this, try to become best in what I do, and it will work out in the end. So I guess keeping up that internal drive and staying focused on what you do, probably is one of the other challenges.
I love what you say, because I'm not a founder, but just being the director of 2 departments, I also came from a position that I was winning a lot when I was a sales rep. I have bad days, I have good days, but the good days, they were really good. And as a director, I'm falling behind, and I'm failing every day. So I can totally relate to that. Manuel, how is it for you?
Yeah, like +1 on what Rish said, like on the perspective, right? I had a day like I was coming and like I was really agitated to my wife. I was like my one best friend quit moving company, and now I need to jump in to help my other best friend move, and like I don't want to do it. I'm so busy. And like first it's on a Saturday, like we don't work on Saturdays. Yeah, but I'm so busy. Like, and why are you so excited? Like, the 2 best friends, there probably will be beer. There's for sure going to be beer. It only takes us an hour to move to bed. It's like, why? Yeah, because I need to move from 50 to 70K bookings a month. Like, man, it's just you. Like, why are you, what do you, like, you're killing yourself. Like, true. So getting perspective back on the, how big do you need to dream? Not everything needs to be like a venture-backed startup, right? Like Claire and I had this conversation like in person a while ago. And I think the second one is like org design. Like, how do you design your target organization for like in 6 to 12 months? Like, for example, our average contract value tripled like 2 times in a row. So went from like on average like 3K or to 10K to now 30K. And we figured out like, oh shit, I hired like the wrong team to sell more professional service, productized service, boutique stuff, than like productized like 5K subscription, which was very unpleasant consequences of like restructuring the team, which means like going to people and say like, you don't have a job anymore, like in 2 months, and like finding new people. And I think the third closely related to that is hiring, right? Like as founders, I think we always tend to be a bit over optimistic of like how much accountability and drive and like own initiative people have. Yeah. Like, well, if I can do it and I'm doing it on the side in 20% of my time, this person can just do like maybe not 5 times, but 3 times as much as I'm doing now, and take full accountability and be independent. And then you hire the person and they ask like, what should I do? And I don't have time. And it's like, of course you have time. Like, it was a 20% job for me. And that's some conflict of founders hiring, like drivers hiring passengers, or like not even drivers, people who create cars, hiring somebody to drive cars, and then people are like, I'm the co-pilot, lead me.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, like I have that as well. At Wonderway or other in companies I worked, where like, of course you can do it. Just figure it out. Come on, just Google it, right? Like I didn't know that. I just Googled and I found the answer. I don't have to bother my manager. but not everyone has that attitude, and it's really hard to assess that on the interview as well, you know. Like at least I haven't figured it out. Like I haven't understood like where how do I find this thread that I'm sure that this person will be not the passenger but the driver, as Manuel said. Speaking, like we've talked, Rish, you talked about not having KPIs anymore, or hard KPIs as you had when you were an employee. Which goals, KPIs, OKRs do you look at as a founder? What it is important for you?
I think biggest win should be same for all. How big, how what revenues are you trying to achieve? How much value you're trying to create within the org? So that's the number one. That for us it's like MRR, right? I mean we're close to 1 million. Let's say how do we go beyond that? Sorry, ARR, not MRR. And the other KPI probably I think about is how do I make myself less involved, right? I mean, that's not a hard metric, but I measure that how many times my team has to rely on me to do something like for daily ops. So those are the two things which I always keep on thinking about how successful I am.
Yeah. How is it for you, Claire? What do you look at?
Yeah, so not so far from Rish. I think like the first one, from a personal perspective, something that Paula, my co-founder, and I kind of talk about is we keep coming back to the fact that we want to have a business that adds real life value, right? There's a lot of novelty innovation out there at the minute. So we kind of say, like, first of all, what we want to do is develop a service that adds value to our customers, and our customers come back and say, like, hey, this is so much easier to do it this way. So I guess, you know, that ties in with what Rish said, which is kind of like that number one, the measure of that, I guess, is revenue, right? Is that kind of external, like, is there a demand for your product or your service? And the second one, I guess, is thinking that we love to do what we do. I love to be a founder, but I also love to pay my rent, right? And I also like to do the things, you know, like anybody else, right? I want to be able to do what I'm doing for as long as possible, and part of that is a very hard metric around margin and profitability, and saying, you know, it's fantastic that we get to do what we love to do every day, and that's very genuine. But we also have to, you know, there's responsibility that comes with that, and also comes with having a team to say, okay, you know, as Manuel said, once you take on people, you also have to look at that, not just the revenue, but the other side of that, which is, you know, the best way essentially for us to keep doing what we love doing and have the team that we love working with is also to have a look at the other side of not just revenue, but kind of profitable business. So those are the two.
Manuel,
humor is if you still laugh, right? Like it's like it would be funny if it was somebody else, right? So last year we had this conversation like, hey, let's crack 1 million, like, and we ended up at like 1.3 something, and like cool. And Flo always told me, like, as a CFO, it's my job to ask about contribution margin. If you work with a lot of like what you call sales masterminds, you basically like delegating work, and the contribution margin is going to be lower than running a professional service business, which you might be like, no, we're like this marketplace and so on, and we just sell more, and like we don't need to build a big delivery. And then also like now our contribution margin is about 30% higher roughly than it was in 2022 by insourcing delivery to a wide extent. But yeah, it's really what do you want to build? And I think all the 2023, the times are much more on efficient growth, on like cash flow positive business, on being like investor independent, rather than like just growth at all costs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something actually that's kind of been a topic recently, because there's been a lot of kind of glamorizing, right, of what it's like to be a founder and secure big funding rounds and be able to say this is how much revenue we generate. You know, there's been a lot of that, and a lot of that leads to bad business, to be honest, you know, and kind of is a bit of a disillusion as well about being a founder, is that, you know, it's really cool to see those revenues come in, and sometimes they come in before long before, or different lengths of time before the profitability. But at the end of the day, that has to come as well. And yeah, I think as Manuel said, 2023, there's a bit of a change from both sides to say, hey, actually, you know, maybe a little bit more due diligence on the investor side also reduces this kind of, yeah, glamorization of securing huge funding rounds with very, you know, green founders and basically ending up, you know, with billions of pounds worth basically and kind of wire fraud and, you know, all of the other kind of stories that we see at the minute. So I think it's a real positive message, not to get too carried away by the revenue, but also to look on the other side as well, which is yeah, the not so sexy stuff, but it's good business.
Yeah, cannot agree more. And I like that you touch upon like what we see and the difference of the mindset that we've seen from 2 years ago, last year to this year. How do you guys, all of you, you know, keep yourself creative, getting new ideas for the business? So how do you usually get inspired? We can start with you, Manuel.
I think one of the key, I'd love to challenge that, like, how do you get more inspired and creative? That's not an issue. I can come up with 10 new business models, tools, and ideas and go to market launches every day, which is actually part of like what makes a founder great, right? Creating something from nothing. But at one point in the scaling phase, you just need to like execute relentlessly on what works, right? And not find new things. I mean, our industry, Comex is the best example of like a joint mentor. Basically, they just executed relentlessly. It's just, quite honestly, like everybody knows, kind of like they were just doing cold emails, doing the same stuff for 4 or 5 years, but executing relentlessly. And they're the only player surpassing like 8-figure revenue, like beyond 10 million in our space. Everybody else from time to time gets hung up on like, we do interim, we do this, we do service, we do headhunting, we do whatever. So I think the challenge is to go from founder to like business owner and just like doubling down on what works. That's even more the thing. So it's actually a bit the other way around, I feel.
Interesting. But still on the executional part, because you still have to iterate on what works and what doesn't. Do you have like a process, or how do you decide, let's go this direction and not the other one?
Yeah, 100%. I think just setting up smart experiments like that are specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, time bound. So like specific is objective, which direction you're moving. Measurable is the key result. What's the definition of done? And then what's the initiative you need to take? And then is relevant, like, is this something like that adds to our business in terms of bottom line impact? And then time bound, like, hey, let's test this for 2 months. So for example, for us, that meant in January, like, hey, we sold 2 large deals, like 30 to 80K deals, and nobody really knew what's the definition of done. So let's take a step back, even if somebody wants to give us money. And we introduced like what's called the launch pad. So like 2.9K, we tell you like where are you today, where are you tomorrow, recommendations, quick wins, execution schedule. And we're like, look, let's run 5 of these. Let's see how many convert into like 20 to 30K projects. And we said like, what's successful? 3 out of 5. So far we converted 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, probably hopefully next week. So that's better than anticipated. But at least you need to understand like what success means to you. Yeah, I'm curious to learn from you, Claire, and Rish, how you do it actually.
I think I have a similar mindset like how Manuel said. So I spend like 80% of time on what works and 20% of my time on trying new things. I'm not, I wouldn't say like entirely brand new things, but probably something which has either I'm selling to the same customer or using my same team capabilities. I mean, for example, right now, I mean, I used to target B2B SaaS, and I built like an internal platform about account research. Now I've tried to make this an independent platform, and I'm trying to see if I can get to 20K with that. And if that works out, probably I'll invest more and put more bandwidth. So I guess I think running lots of experiments and making sure at least putting honest effort to reach to a probably finish line.
Yeah. How about you, Claire?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's one of the things that actually probably not sets founders apart from others, but a thing that you find all founders have by prerequisite is that they're doers. And you can spend as much time as you want. It's actually nearly more frustrating to spend lots of time strategizing and coming up with great ideas and then walking away with the weight of those great ideas, knowing that you're not doing anything about it. And absolutely the joy comes in that doing. And some people say like, oh yeah, my best ideas come to me like when I'm on a walk or when I'm cycling or whatever.
Showering.
Right. And I'm like, none of my ideas come to me at those points. Like my moments of creativity is when I'm like stuck in a really thorny problem, like an ops challenge or something. And I'm like, why the hell are we doing it like this? If only I could, whatever. Right. And when that idea comes up, being able to have the autonomy as a founder to say, okay, that process works better in a different way. Let's change it. You change it and then you see, okay, it works or it doesn't work. But either way, you've made progress on the challenge. And yeah, maybe that is being a founder, is that actually you're the kind of the creativity and the satisfaction actually comes from doing, even if it's the wrong thing. It's progress. So I think 100% like doing is a superpower for sure.
Yeah, I do relate to that because I do have a lot of ideas as well for my departments, but then I have to figure out which ones, make sense and which ones actually we can execute and actually bring impact. So I can relate. Manuel.
Yeah, I think one thing is like Naval Ravikant, I think, popularized in Naval's Almanac, fantastic book. And it's just like, look, think of like, you can only do stuff that's like at least $1,000 an hour. And it's like his novels are like, oh, that was obviously far too low for me like 20 years ago, like should be much higher. It's like $1,000 an hour is fine to start with. Like, what can I do that's bringing the business $1,000 in revenue? Like, and for example, if I can hold a sales workshop with 40 people selected out of 160 at Start Summit, and we book like 7 calls straight away with qualified people, and we convert about like 1 out of 4 calls right now to like 25K in revenue. That means like 1 booked call is 6K in revenue. If I can book 7 of them, that's reasonably good hourly rate. If I talk to a strategic partner and we schedule like a bi-weekly call and we talk about paperwork, how we could do things over the next 3 years, and I sent 100 emails to SAP Hybris in my former role, and there was like the biggest system partner like in our space, but it resulted in 0 revenue because we didn't get anything done. And just being honest, what's shiny and what's actually driving business.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great one.
And sometimes as founders, we think like we need the big brands and so on, but like we did like, and even now we did like 6-figure revenue with some brands nobody know, and 0 revenue with some brands who could easily spend it, but don't. So just focus on helping the people who are committed to get help. Like that's what it boils down to.
I love that. I see you nodding, Claire and Rish, both of you smiling and nodding. So I will assume you're also on that side of the game.
Nothing to add there. Completely agree, Manuel. All that glitters is not gold. It's true.
Love that.
I like that saying. Yeah.
Love that. So we are almost finishing our great talk. But I always have a final question for all of my guest speakers. And after understanding a bit more, what your challenges are, how your day looks like, what are your goals, I like to show a prospecting email to the role to see if the SDR actually understands your life. That's always a surprise question. So it's anonymous, all right? This person, it's not the name of the person, not the company, so we can be totally honest about it. So I will share and read the email. So, hi, Claire, Manuel, Rish. I'll be glad to learn more about your company and your projects to see if the company I'm working for can be a good fit for your requirements. We have startups as yours with shaping a final product vision with strong competitive advantages, creative dynamic prototypes, planning integrations important for fast and effective business workflows, and much more. How does it sound? Is it relevant for you? Cheers, John. Manuel, you were like clapping your hands, so I'm going to start with you.
Shall I be brutal? I don't pick apart cold emails anymore. So first of all, I'd love to have like the subject line and like the subject line is important, right? Because that's determining your open
Extremely.
rate. Then like, I mean, first thing, like you can make it better by just like good morning, for example, or like hi in the local language or so. And then just remove anything first person, right? Like I would be glad to learn. We help. Like I don't care what you do, right? Like what can you do for me?
Yeah.
Keep it shorter, like keep it more specific. So like saw your scaling sales playbook from like 1 to 10 million, like and customers like you, like other people in your space, and then add 3 names which I know of, which are very similar to me, achieve these results, like quantified, like decreased customer acquisition cost by 20%, like avoided mishiring VP sales or whatever, but be really specific and in a niche. And then what is here is far too much, right? Like product vision, planning integrations, workflows, like, okay, what exactly? I do not understand. And then call to action, much more specific, not one question, and not two questions, but one, like, I would love to find out if these results are possible for you, is one that really works well, because that's like, okay, do you want to be achieve similar success? Is this relevant? And then I would
Perfect.
keep it a bit less informal, like cheers, like looking forward to hearing from you, but like putting another call to action.
Yeah. Rish, what's your take here? Does it speak to your heart or not really?
Not really. I think these kind of word like strong competitive advantage and dynamic, I think these are all great words which 90s salesmen used to speak. But I think you got to be like real touching the ground. So I think first of all, I mean, we internally we do a lot of personalization, and if I see that an email which could be to any other founder in the world is saying copy pasted to me, I think that's a big yellow flag that hey, this person is like just copy pasting and hasn't put any honest effort. And I think second thing, I think yeah, I think as a founder I care about either you're helping me grow my revenues or cut my cost, right? So either whatever pitch are you trying to do with, link it to either one of them. And normally call to action, I mean, it's not too bad, probably two questions is a bit hard. I normally use mind if I send you more info, or probably using Chris Voss's technique of trying for a go for a negative response. So yeah.
Love that. Claire, I saw you nodding. What's your take?
First of all, like I feel so sorry for John or pseudo John Mafalda. I don't know where you get these from. If people submit them, if you have to pay people to allow them the pleasure of being roasted, or what
Nope.
the situation is. But yeah, kind of agree with Manuel and Reese. Nothing more to add to their comments. Really agree with what they said. One of the things that we find well is what works well is to kind of finish off the email with a question that's easy to answer, right? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Requires a lot of time to write, right? How does this sound to you? It requires loads of time. And one of the things that everybody, not just founders, are short on today is time. And we find that kind
Absolutely.
of what you don't want somebody to do is kind of read the email and then mark it as unread to come back to you later, you know, or anything like that. And I think finishing something, and Reese, I think you suggested there, do you mind if I send you some more information? Whatever it is, something that's easy to answer for people, I think is like that first step to kind of open the conversation, right? It's like not difficult. I'm not asking for you to really sit down and apply part of your brain for too long here, but just, you know, something easy to come back to me with, and then I can tailor and kind of open that conversation. So yeah, I would have to say I agree with Manuel and Reese. Make it personal, make it about exactly the revenue or cost. That's definitely pains that you can count that founders are kind of feeling, and then just make it really easy for someone to come back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I usually, you know, I obviously being the head of business development department, I have a lot of thoughts, but that's not my place.
Is John someone in your team, Mafalda? Please tell
Absolutely
me
not. Absolutely not.
Not anymore.
No, absolutely not. I'm very, very picky with prospecting emails. Absolutely not.
Cool.
Awesome. Guys, so thank you so much for the time you spent with me today, Manuel, Rish, Claire. Such a pleasure I spoke with the three of you before, one more than the others. It's always a pleasure to talk to you again, and and to have your thoughts and your insights on the founder's role. So thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule, and good luck, and I'll see you around LinkedIn.
See you around.
Cool.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much.